Alright, welcome back to part 2 of the Bit Heroes Explained Raid 6 guide. A lot of information in the last video, and it was getting kind of long, so I wanted to chop it in half. It makes it a lot easier to upload it and go that way as well. I know there was a lot of information talking about the different familiars and showing you in the schematic tab. Also, if you're not able to look at it in game like that, you can always go to the Bit Heroes wiki and you can come down here and take a look at these fusions. This repeats everything I talked about. The different attacks these guys have, that explains the team comp and why I put it that way. And this also talks about the different bonuses that each one has. You don't have to memorize anything, but just what you do want to focus on is when this guy dies, he revives all of his teammates with a significant amount of health. When this guy has full health, he does 20% extra damage on top of 15% damage. And then this guy, the first attack against him will be deflected. So if I do an area of effect attack that does a moderate amount of damage, it gets deflected, not a big deal. I can get that deflect out of the way. That's why my bank tech runs a sword. He can get that out of the way, and then my damage characters can just blow this guy up. So the first attack will be deflected. If you forget about this and you throw a mount skill with 10,000 damage at this guy and it crits and then gets empowered and so on and gets deflected, you'll take your tank out. And so a lot of players do that without knowing it. So want to kill him first. Want to hit him with a nice little AoE attack. Want to hit this guy with a nice little AoE attack and get that deflect out of the way. Pretty simple. That's all I'm worried about. And let's jump right into it. So, we talked about the team comp in the previous video. I'm going to do this one a little bit more without the autopilot. This group actually can auto through it all with a few exceptions, if just based on RNG. So the first slot enemy, if he dies first, I don't have to worry about his special ability. If he dies after someone else, ooh, my buddy. One of my guildmates just got a piece of oblit, I think that was. Some of us are farming oblit for what we think is maybe a GVG coming up. And so you always got to give out some love, especially when someone gets a good item, because RNG can be so rough that it can be a long time between you get two exciting pieces. How many pieces? But anyways, alright. So first slot, when this guy dies... he'll resurrect his enemy, so I want him to die first. If this guy is full health, he does 20% increased damage on top of his 15% passive bonus, and this guy will do a deflect. So, gonna auto through here, and so on, because I don't have any other options as far as my skills. And you'll see that he aimed for the back on that one. Still going through. And now... Okay, just through autoing, I killed the first guy, so that was great. So there's no chance that he can resurrect anybody. And I could choose to snipe this guy out, but since the front line is gone, I'm going to hit him anyways, so it doesn't matter. I can save up some skill points. And then what I would have liked to get off earlier, since there's two of these guys, is I try to get this off as soon as possible. This is the first fight, so I don't have any skill points or SP built up for these attacks. But I want to get off my sword attack as soon as possible, hit all three, so now these guys no longer get the 20% damage bonus, and this guy has already used his deflect off, and so from here on I can just auto it and not think about it. So, nice and easy, as smooth as it can be, and we're just going to run through that and do that again over here. So same thing. Since these guys are strong, I'll probably end up autoing it pretty soon, but same thing's going to go on here. What do I want to do? 2 times, or hit all the enemies. Yeah, let's do that. So I've hit these guys, they're no longer full health, and I've got rid of his deflect. All I have to do is kill this guy first. If I don't kill this guy first, it's not the biggest deal in the world. So for example, we'll see how this guy died when I'm autoing it. The crumb in the front died, and so it resurrected the last one, but since the main tank was out of the way, they still died quickly anyway, so it's kind of the least severe worries. Same thing over here. Also, the bigger they are, the more damage they can do. They're buffed up in some way. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to attack everybody, get the deflect out of the way, get that damage bonus off, and then from that, I'm not worried about anything else from here. Depending on how the RNG goes, obviously he died, and so he resurrected everyone in the back, but again, I'm not that worried about it. It does give you a chance to kind of build up more pet procs and build up more SP, if you're okay with that. Now, you will see some tank swapping. This guy is pretty big, so he's probably higher level. So, let's see. He could chunk one of my tanks, and so you'll see me swapping my tanks around a little bit. I'm noticing how my front slot doesn't have a lot of shield on him, so I might switch him up a little bit. So right through here, since I'm keeping a close eye on there, I can switch this guy in, have him take a couple hits as he kind of eats off the shield and bounce it back and forth like that. You want to spread the shield out a little bit. I have seen certain attacks crit and just do a massive amount of damage. Good example is probably this guy. He is so big that he's probably a higher level, and again, the 20% and the 50% damage bonus is pretty scary, so it's something you want to take out early on. Got the deflect out of the way, although he's going to be resurrected by the front guy, and we're just going to auto through this to speed it up. So you can actually switch your characters while you're running around. See, I just dragged number 2 to number 1. Just give him a second to hold up, to heal up, and to get a little bit more shields before I put him back in the front. I do realize that I am tanking with a 1000 stam front tank, so I just want to kind of keep that in mind. And my runes are suboptimal, but they definitely will do. You don't need a 22,000 stat team to get through this. Alright, and another one. So for repetition's sake, same things here. These guys do a ton more damage full health. These guys will deflect. These guys will deflect the first attack to them, so a nice low damage area attack that hits everybody will be very valuable for me here. And we're just cruising. So while this is going through, a good way to get friends is you can always go into the world chat, you can talk to players, and you can say, hey, I'm a new player, or I'm stuck in raid 5, I'm stuck in raid 6, I need help, etc. And that's a good way to get some friends. You can probably pull some friends at around 3K, maybe 3.5K total stats out of there. For higher friends, you kind of need to know somebody because they're in such high demand, and then you want to go on the Discord and go into Hunger Games and check that out. So same thing here. I got the deflect out of the way, and just to make sure, I wasn't sure if I actually hit him or not, so I used my sword skill on my bait tank to take off that damage bonus. And a lot of people when they run in this dungeon say, oh, Dungeon 6 is really RNG, it's all about the randomness of the game. Not really. RNG definitely is a factor, as it always is, but you can really take out a lot of those big one-shots just by kind of playing the game a little bit and keep an eye on it. Of course, if you're strong enough just to auto the whole thing, okay, obviously go for that. Let's see what I'm going to do. So this is enrage. A percentage of the damage that you take can actually go into damage. I'm just going to hit him real quick because I want to take off his damage bonus like I've been talking about. And we'll just go on through. This guy in the back, he's smaller, so I'm not that worried about how much damage he's going to do because he's not, insanely leveled up. And as always, if you don't kill the front guys first, the other guys will respawn, but that's the least of my worries. And then I think this is the last trash pack. So same thing through here. Just to be safe, I'm recording and I don't want to kind of get flopped on my face. I'll put him in front, so I'll switch my tanks in front because he's got the most shields. And from time to time you can switch your bait tank in front if you need to. If these guys are really low in the final fight, you might see that. Or if everybody's low and I'm just having a horrible day with RNG, I'll put a full health, full shield DPS in the front and let them take 1 or 2 hits just to kind of keep the ball rolling. So same thing here. The front guy, I want him to die first. And these back two, I need to hit them at least once. So the sword attack accomplishes all that. The front guy can't respawn anybody, and these guys have lost their 20% damage. And then for the weakest back here, I waited for him to take a hit before I put any big damage on him because I don't want him to reflect and kill my DPS. I've only got one redirect rune, and so I don't want to kind of wreck myself right before I get to the final boss. Once you hit everybody, and you kind of take those bonuses out of the way, you can really just auto through and save yourself a ton of time. Alright, so in settings I have ignore pylons on, ignore shrines, and ignore boss, and this is why. So right before my boss, what I can do is I can click this, I can take that shrine, or if, let's say, if I wasn't paying attention, I don't know where the shrine is and I don't want to go find it, I can just uncheck that, and then I'll run right there. And sometimes in dungeons or raids you'll have two, and so one might be right across the way, or maybe there was a health shrine I didn't know, so that will find it for me. And if I don't know where the boss is, I can actually uncheck that, and they'll find the boss for me. But I put it back on so I don't forget, and I've also taken off the auto so I don't just kind of look away and then find out my whole team's getting shot. So this is the first time I've actually played on this raid on this browser, and so it will pop up the text before, so you a little sneak peek if you haven't been in this raid. And I've got auto off, and then okay, so this guy, if he is full health, he does a ton of damage, 20% plus the 15 that we talked about, and that since he's bigger, he's higher level. So he's going to hit me, but he's in the front spot, so it's easy to hit him. So I'm really not worried about it. What I am going to do is I'll just do an auto attack just to kind of get that out of the way. And now, this is when you want to talk about mount attacks. I didn't talk about it in the first video because it was kind of getting long, but I am keeping an eye on what mount attacks my team has. And I always want to get these off. Just remember that if you have the deflect guy in here, you want to definitely get that deflect out of the way so you don't your damage guys don't one-shot themselves just by using their mount skills. This is a heal self, so I'm not worried about that. It definitely has come in handy in the past. This is also a heal self because that mount is very popular. And this is a heal team. I'm actually going to save that on this one, and I'm just going to swap my tanks real quick because he took a little bit of damage. So strongest enemy. I'm 9 times out of 10, or maybe even more than that, I'm trying to get out the second guy first. The benefit to that is that means there's less damage coming at your team. The downside of that actually is that you have less things hitting you, so you have less chance to proc your defensive benefits, your defensive pets, and so that actually can be a negative to you. It just depends. If they're really high damage, you want to get them out of there. If they are, I'm just going to use this to get it out of the way. If they are high damage, and then you want to get them out of there. If it's a high damage, why can't I speak today? But if you're facing a high damage ad that comes with the boss, you want to get them out there as fast as possible. If it's low damage and you're not that worried about it, you might actually consider leaving it for a couple reasons. One, it's another hit that's going to give you more chance to proc your defensive pets, but also if your boss has a heal, this guy has a team heal, and the boss is going to waste rounds healing him instead of healing others. I hope he doesn't die. Remember, if one of these guys die, obviously I haven't used any potions, so I could obviously heal him. But if he did die and I didn't have potions, all of my oblit tanks, he's one of them, but these oblit tanks would actually lose a ton of damage reduction. So that pretty much wraps it up. You want to remember how your skills work, how your team works together, and just kind of run through it again. So specific to me, but you'll usually find things similar. The way oblit works is if anybody dies, if you revive them, you can get the bonus back, but if anybody is dead in the group, your oblit tank loses 15%, and so that's going to really cripple their ability to be an oblit tank. You want a high stamina, so 14 or 1600 stamina in the front. If they have oblit, that's even better. I've had most of my success with oblit. In the second slot, you typically want your highest stamina, so you're looking for a 16 or an 1800 stamina here. Again, if you have oblit, that's great too. And again, oblit, if somebody dies, they lose that damage bonus. And then because oblit gives everybody behind you a benefit, it stacks. So everybody behind him is getting 5% damage reduction and 5% damage increase. Everybody behind him is getting another 5% and 5%. And so that is the reason why I can be lazy, not switch his gear around, and keep him low here, and get away with having such a low bank tank because I've got that extra 10% damage reduction. if you're really high level, you can consider running 3 damage characters, but I just have the most consistency, and if I want, I could just auto this whole thing with this build. So that pretty much wraps it up. Hopefully this wasn't too long-winded, and I do hope this helps you guys trying to get through some of the later content, because if you look into the Discord, or if you look into the Reddit, or if you look into World Chat, this is where players are getting bottlenecked. They're getting stuck here, and they think it's because they don't have enough team stats. And 9 times out of 10, if you're close to 20,000, it's because you're not playing well or you're not building your team right. There's players that have 21 and 22,000 team stats and they still can't auto it because some of this information just hasn't become apparent. So hopefully it wasn't too long-winded. I'm going to wrap it up with that one. I'll possibly do a Raid 5 as well, just to kind of show that content as well. All right. Appreciate you watching.